Hi there, everybody. I'd like to welcome you back to the Ohio Chess Association channel on YouTube. I'm Tom Britt, National Master, and we're going to go over another one of John Stopa's classic wins. This is in honor of John, who died July 7th, 2017, and he really played his heart out in a lot of his games. This is one example. He played Schiller, who was an ambassador for chess. He's also an author that I think a lot of you have probably seen some of his books out there. So this game is a Coley system, and I consider that, for white, I don't like playing that because it's a little more passive, but that's how Eric started this one off. And I know John enjoyed playing against that because it's kind of in his wheelhouse. So this, again, what I mean by the little bit of the passive nature is you're blocking your dark squared bishop in right out of the gate. So it's kind of one of the old-fashioned games, if you will. John decided to fianchetto his kingside bishop, which is a unique way of playing against it. It's pretty strong, and that's something he's comfortable with. So he ended up actually playing a double fianchetto here. So you'll see that in a minute. Again, the fianchetto is when the bishop fills that spot and helps defend the king quite well. Okay. Both sides' castles are getting developed. It's kind of natural moves here, making the normal progression. White now decides to make a duo on the queen side, helping to get things out, clear the way for the knight. Then the bishop's coming. Black's challenged in the center. He decides to go ahead and take. It's more like a queen's gambit from that perspective. He accepts it. Delayed acceptance. Of course, white takes the pawn. It's not a gambit at this point so much since it's already defended. There's our double fianchetto. White naturally progresses out with a knight, so he's normal development knights for 4 bishops. He's looking at what can I do to get my center strong. Black, on the other hand, is looking to counter the center, and that's kind of, in a lot of ways, similar to like a Grunfeld or some of these other openings. You're going to have a battle where there's a strong center, and then hit it from the sides. Hyper-modern chess is what they call this. Okay. Now, here's a situation where we're expanding on the queen side, kicking the bishop back, gaining space, and looking to try and eventually get c5 shot in, freeing shot here for black to again bust up the center. Knights are connected. Rook hits the half open file. Both playing very, very solidly right here. Pretty equal position, I would say, at this point. So now with black playing rook c8, white has to find a plan. Here's where white decides he's going to play a duo in the center. And of course, when you look at this e4 move on move 15, the thing about it is you have to always weigh up, when I make a move like that, can I hold that center or not? Is it supportable? Do I have enough behind it? Overprotection is what Nimzowitsch used to call that. Have I overprotected enough? Here I don't think so. That's one of the challenges here, because you look at John's move to undermine the center is a very natural move here, b4. Notice how this pawn is causing all kinds of havoc in white's camp. Kicking the knight, white has 2 choices. He can move the knight, and if he does move the knight, say he moves it over here to a4, he's got a concern about a key square here, the pawn on e4. Double attack for black there, not enough defense for white. We've got two attackers, 1 defender. That's not going to work. So he realizes too late, unfortunately, that he's got to just go in for, they say in for a penny, in for a pound. He's got to break the duo now and play e5. It's his only hope. So this is a situation where you're on move 16, and I've been here many times, so Eric isn't alone. It's a situation where you're fighting to do what you can to make the best of the position. He breaks the duo, and John's very happy with this because now he can get a combination in to break up that center. You can see these captures, several of them right in a row. We still have even material, but black gained out of position. From a positional standpoint, black has an easier way because notice this pawn is an isolated pawn, and we've got this key square here right in front of it where black's going to be able to blockade that very easily and have a jumping point for knights, for bishops, for whatever he wants in there, rooks as well, and queens, to make use of that central, it's almost like central station there for him. Okay? Okay, so from here, what we're saying is, see how black immediately takes advantage. John found a way to take advantage of knight to d5, forcing the queen away. So queen comes out to a5, a safe spot. hitting a few of the pawns out here. He's hitting c5 squares one. He's looking at that square. He's also keeping an eye on things. But the thing is, one way to look at this is the queen's also, even though it's hitting c5, it's also really out of play in a lot of ways, whereas black's going to look to attack on the king side, and you'll see that here in a moment. Okay, rooks are out. Knight comes to center. This looks like it's a really strong move. The problem is he's threatening this square, the fork on c6, okay? Normally that'd be good because then you could trade the knight for that bishop, and now you have the two bishops for white, which counteracts the d-pawn weakness, your isolated pawn there. However, black has something in mind that's much deeper at this point, and that's the advantage that Stopa had in this game. He unleashes this bishop, double attack, you can see on that. He also looks to bring the queen out eventually out here. So he's got a lot of things in mind where he can attack the white king side when there's not a lot of defenders. Tal used to say, count the number of pieces in the attacking terrain, how many defenders, how many attackers, and take the difference there. Whoever has the preponderance of pieces, more pieces attacking, is going to have the advantage. Here we're going to look. How many does black have? Black has the knight. He's got the queen that's coming out eventually, the bishop's here, and effectively this rook can also make some activity. So we really got four that are I could count there. For white's got the knight, but the knight's actually almost too far advanced. So, and there's no other knight back on f3 on the other hand. If the knight were here, it'd be a much stronger defender. So that's why the knight e5 was a problem issue for white. So now you see the forced move. The bishop had to come back, it was under attack. Now does everybody see what black could do? Here's a position where you would normally look at what's called candidate moves. Okay, this is a key position in the game. Black must have seen this, that's John Stopa, must have seen this way in advance. Okay, you're looking at this position now, you say, well, what's going on? What candidate moves would I consider? One candidate move would be this move, okay? Queen out here. Because then you have a trifecta, three attacks, knight, bishop, and queen on that square, g2, okay? Another candidate move would be this one, hitting the king with check. Now you might wonder, wait, I'm leaving my knight hanging. What's going on here? Well, the answer is, there's a couple move combination there where that knight actually can't be captured. I'm going to demonstrate that to you here in a moment. And then you look at any other moves, and really those are the two main moves. There's like a rook move that could go to d5, but quite honestly, that's actually blocking our bishop. I'm not sure that's going to get us too far. So we kind of discard that pretty quickly. So of the two moves, I like the queen move, but clearly once you look deeply enough, you realize this move is your best, and I'll show you why here in a moment. So John played that. And now white has two choices. He can take the knight, or he can leave it. If he leaves it, the king's got to move because he's in check. Okay, that's the situation we're in, because you can certainly see this checking situation, the attack there. Okay, so two choices. You got to take it. If you're in check, you got to get rid of the check. So we're either going to take that knight, or move the king out of the way. If you take the knight, which is what you like to do, and that's what most people would say, and this common sense would say, capture the piece that's hanging. There's a real problem with that, though. Once this piece is captured, let's go back. Here we go. From this position, I'm going to look at this square. The queen's going to be able to hit this square with tempo, with a check, drill down, and you have a check there once the knight's captured, once this is gone. And he's also going to have this bishop with great power along the diagonal, totally dominating that diagonal, and therefore the only hope for white to stop mate would be to interpose the knight. Then the queen's hanging, you might notice from that standpoint, but we weren't worried about the queen. We can take the knight, and that'll be a mate. So you can definitely see capturing that knight is not the way to go. That's going to lead to a mate. So we'll discard that as an option. And the next thing we'll do is look at what the only other alternative, that's what happens in chess often. You got two choices, one doesn't work, got to go with the other one. And in this case, once the king moves, you can definitely see there's a fork here. Got a fork, knight hits the king with check, hits the rook. We're in a situation where he's got to move the king back again. Once the rook's off, definitely enough material here for black to win this. He's got the two bishops again in the double fianchetto mode. And he's also got material. Let's count material here and look. We can certainly see from a standpoint, you're up the exchange, and then you say with pawns, we've got 4-6 versus 5. So we got exchanging a pawn up. That's going to be plenty to get the job done here. So he ends up carrying this out. He breaks in the center. Queen comes back to defend a bit. Trade as much as we can as soon as possible. Enter the 7th. Again, keep in mind, once the rook's on the 7th, we call that pigs on the 7th. 1, if you can get 2 of them, it's even better. 1 on the 7th here, it's just dominating everything. And it's just very, very difficult to defend against the rook on the 7th. So John's doing the right thing with that move. Queen's trying to support things, but again, John scoops up the A pawn. And here there's just not much left for white to do. He's down material. He's struggling. It's really, essentially, he's looking for some trick at this point to play. See, it's on that diagonal. It's not going to get much of a trick because both the queen and the king hit that F pawn at F6, have a blockade up. So there's just not much he's going to be able to do. And now all we have to do is find a way to have multiple attacks on the G2 pawn. And there's one way. Notice we've got the queen and the bishop behind it as well, and then the rook. Just too much pressure. So again, a double attack, and then we're hitting the queen here as well. Just too much going on for him to cope with, basically. So really, it's actually that's why he resigned at this point, because he realized there was not going to be any way to stop the checkmate. And John did a tremendous job of attacking and really bringing the initiative to fruition. Once he got up material, less than 10 moves, was able to wrap up the game. And I'm sure he's delighted with this one. We all would be against someone, an ambassador like Eric Schiller. So thanks so much for tuning into the channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.